So Samsung recently released their top-of-the-end flagship for the final quarter of 2019, which is the Galaxy Note 10 and the Note 10 Plus 5G. There are some marked differences between the Note 10 and the Note 10 Plus, but if you want their creme de la creme of the flagships, then you are looking at the bigger of the two. Now, I was fortunate enough that Samsung released it in their home market while I've been settling in Seoul, South Korea. So of course, I went ahead and picked myself up a Galaxy Note 10 Plus, not only the 10 Plus version, but also the top of the spec 5G 512GB, 12 gig RAM model. To go ahead and unbox this, share my initial thoughts and impressions of the flagship in their home territory, but also follow up with future camera testing, final reviews and comparisons with the Galaxy Note 9. What's up world, I'm One Tech Traveler, so join me in the unboxing and impressions of the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. And we have the Galaxy Note 10 Plus 5G. The light is shining across it, giving it that nice rainbow hue effect. But generally it's silver. So see if I can show you like so. And in case you're wondering, there is already a pre-installed screen protector inside the box. I have the Korean adapter. We have the 25-watt fast charging adapter. Much more of an upgrade compared to the Note 9, and that is a USB-C input. So here we have some AKG branded earphones. The cable actually has more of a like braided thread for extra durability. But of course, this year's biggest change is that these are now using USB-C rather than your 3.5mm headphone jack, because the Note 10 Plus is the first Samsung flagship to do away without it. The S10 series, including the Plus models, all had the headphone jack, but this fall, they've decided to remove it. And rather than including a dongle, you've just got the USB-C. Underneath the lid, we actually have another one. And in here, looks like it comes with the manual and a case. Let's get a SIM card removal tool. But here we have a nice silicone case. It's transparent, covers all of the edges. You have openings for the USB-C, the speakers, and of course the stylus. And we have the large cutout for all of the three cameras and the sensors. And you'll find those extra accessories like the case on the Note 10 Plus model. It won't be in the Note 10, which is the smaller version. That Aura Glow really shines nicely. And let's finally peel off this protector from the back. And before I go ahead and put the case on it, let's have a look at that. Really beautiful. That light refracting all the different colors. So a really nice hue. And if you're looking for something different, but on a day-to-day, it is silver. As for the profile, it's quite a bit slimmer than the Note 9 at 7.9mm. Sheds a few grams at 198. And that camera setup doesn't have much of a bump. So let me just power this on and get this set up. Okay, so here is the Galaxy Note 10 Plus 5G. I have the While the design looks incredible with two slabs of glass on the front and the back protected by Gorilla Glass 6, this is really slippery. It's slippery to hold right now in front of the camera. It's very much a fingerprint magnet, so I've had to clean it down for these shots. But you can see when everything is pristine, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Facing the phone on the bottom, we have the microphone flanking the USB-C port on the left, the bottom firing speaker grill, and the stylus slot holder. Gone is the 3.5mm jack. And then on the top we have the SIM and micro SD card slots, with the latter exclusive on the Note 10 Plus version. Another microphone and a small channel, which I believe is to help the sound reverberate from the screen vibration. Hardware wise, the biggest change that we've seen is on the Bixby button. So that would have been on the left side underneath the volume rocker that we were locked into. We couldn't really change what that button would do, and it just opened up Bixby. which was a duplication of Google Assistant. They've acknowledged that and they've made that button remappable. Of course, you can still activate Bixby, but also acts as the power button, and double pressing, you can open up a different application. So finally, no more accidental Bixby call-ups. I was quite surprised that they moved it to the Bixby button rather than the power button on the right side. But it kind of makes sense. The design means it's much cleaner on the right side, and for all of the buttons, you have it down below. The buttons are very satisfying, have a nice click to it, and there's a nice enough clearance between the volume rocker and the power button. You do also have a software power key in the notification center. Overall, a much more polished hardware experience, slightly lighter. The sides aren't as aggressively curved as previous generations, meaning that you get a better hold in your hand. Still very slippery, easy fingerprint magnet, and the 10 Plus is definitely going to be more unwieldy for those with smaller hands. But if you do prefer that bigger screen, this one's going to handle nicer. So for my initial thoughts and playtest since it launched, I want to share 4 key things that I really like about the Note 10 Plus 5G and a few things that are less than great. The first one, of course, is the display. That 6.8-inch dynamic AMOLED QHD Plus resolution display looks absolutely gorgeous. They have increased the aspect ratio to 19.9. That gives much more of an immersive experience. If you were worried like I was about having a punch out or a notch in the display, you'll actually find the Note 10 Plus is really usable and you're not actually going to notice it. That's down to 2 things. One is that they've reduced the camera size hole itself at the sacrifice of a smaller aperture on the selfie camera. It's no longer wide or dual like the S10 Plus, and it has a smaller f2.2. So having a smaller camera hole and in the middle actually makes it fine. Your eyes tend to direct towards the center of the screen. It actually didn't even bother me at all. You tend to notice the corners more because that's where you have your notifications and all your status indicators. But in here, because it sits in the center, it's actually quite symmetrical, uniform, and it doesn't affect the functionality on either side. So I found even with brightly lit backgrounds, it actually fits quite nicely and even becomes a reference point when I'm doing portrait camera shots. And because that follows the line, there's no like dynamic meter of axes you'll find on a professional camera. So having to use the rule of third grid and using the camera hole punch actually just helps it a bit better, which is kind of weird. So for me overall, I found it really nice. It's so immersive, and on that dynamic AMOLED, where using apps like Netflix, which support the HDR10 Plus, makes it super satisfying. The second feature I want to talk about is, of course, the camera, one of the biggest upgrades they've done from the Note 9, and that's the triple camera setup. In addition to the 27mm wide lens, both dual aperture 1.5 2.4, you have the 52mm telephoto at f2.1, and the newest addition is that 12mm ultra wide coming in at f2.2. The wide telephoto are both 12 megapixels, while the ultra wide is at that 16 megapixels. Find the camera quality between all 3 of them slightly varies. Of course, the main wide camera performs the best with noise reduction, contrast, details, whereas the others suffer a bit more with low light conditions. But just having that extra ultra wide lens in addition to the setup makes it much more flexible. You can be more creative, and just generally the quality of all of them are very good. Of course, I'm going to do my camera breakdown later on. Night side mode works pretty well, and you can see a sample here, and then zoom in microphone. I've tried it for now and it definitely ups the volume, but rather than being focused on the subject, it kind of seems like they just up the gain, so everything around just gets zoomed in overall. But it's a pretty good feature so far. So like I mentioned earlier, the Stylus has been refined this year. It's a little bit shorter. It keeps a simpler design without that chrome trim and Samsung branding. And the button is placed a little bit towards the tip. Not too much difference from the Note 9. It ejects in both ways, whether that's this way or that way. And when you take it out, you can activate off-screen notes or air actions and air commands. So if you can imagine yourself using the stylus to be productive, taking notes, is always a great phone to do that. The stylus feels nice and comfortable, rests in your hand, very light, and it's battery charged when you dock it inside. When you open it up, they have changed it from a rotary wheel to just a simple list, which is okay. And what I've done is I've actually put a widget on my phone for some of the content that I want to create and ticking it off. So where you do get a lot of value on the Note is, of course, using that stylus. Now, someone who's used a Surface Book and Surface Laptop, I'm used to really high levels of pressure, and on this you're going to get 4096, so a really nice intuitive experience. That taller and narrower aspect ratio means you are going to be able to jot more down, and again, for screen estate, you're just going to be able to see much more than you would. New to the Note 10 Plus is of course air actions, which allow you to do certain gestures in the air, flicking through camera modes, zooming in, taking pictures. Taking pictures and such work very well on the stylus. I found the air actions just to be pretty gimmicky. It's just not going to replace the normal actions that you would to change those, which is just flicking through the screens. Those work much better, and I found they tried to find an angle to show that they've upgraded the stylus when actually it hasn't changed much fundamentally. But what you are going to get is an excellent stylus experience. So overall, I still find writing on the Note 10 Plus to be one of the best, if not the best, on a smartphone. Just new additions to the Note 10 Plus, not so much. And the fourth feature I want to talk about on the Galaxy Note 10 Plus 5G is, of course, the battery. Now, the battery is 4,300 milliamp, which lasts me more than a day. I find I don't need to charge it overnight. And that 25 watts charger that comes with the phone means you're going to get up to 100% in just over 1 hour, which is amazing. For a phone that has a high capacity and fast charging, which is a part I felt Samsung still lacked compared to others. One of the other features is, of course, wireless power share. Is a separate option that you can go into that allows you to reverse charge a phone up to, I believe, 9 watts. Any Qi wireless devices like the Galaxy Earbuds, or of course another phone like the Note 9, then you are going to be able to reverse charge. It's not bad, and if you are in an emergency or want to top someone else's, quite nice. How often do I use it? Not very much, if hardly. But battery wise, it's going to get you through the whole day intensively, and you're going to be able to enjoy a lot of the top spec features in this phone for longer. Those are the 4 great things I like about the Note 10 Plus. Now, there are a few parts that I don't really like. It's kind of a bittersweet moment. One is the ultrasonic under display fingerprint scanner. Now, you can have the phone off or on, and there's like a little area where you can just place your thumb and it will open it. But to be honest, it's very finicky. I found multiple times if it's on the table that it doesn't recognize my fingerprints, and I have to register a fingerprint that is kind of suited when my thumb is on a table, and it works better than compared to if I register it like this as I'm holding the phone. It's not as quick compared to other. It wasn't as reliable, consistent, or as fast, but it works okay. And then the final thing is, if you are looking for top specs, this only has a 60 Hz refresh rate. For the majority of people, you won't really notice it, but if you are a power user or if you are looking for top of the range in 2019, then it is absent on this. For sure, it'll probably come out in the next generation, but if you're looking for that, you're only going to get 60 here. Saying that, however, the 12 gig RAM and the processor means, for me, has been absolutely smooth. Had no problems with hiccups, stutters, or freezings. It's worked great since day one, and I've been loading it up with all of my apps and doing many things and having apps open. So generally, you are going to get a great experience. You're just not going to get that super fluid and responsiveness of a high refresh rate. So that wraps up my unboxing and initial impressions of the Galaxy Note 10 Plus 5G. I'll definitely do much more in-depth video and a series of videos to go through the features, just because there's so much more than I can cover in a reasonable amount of time. So make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking the button down below. You can check out my in-depth reviews and features on my website at onetechtraveler.com, as well as my travel stories around the world and gear reviews. Let me know if there's any features or any questions. Come Summit our world. I'll see you in the next video, but until then, keep being awesome. Peace.